Hey.
So everybody knows I am in fact Linda, and
Yeah.
I uh, I have had a really nice time here. Everybody is really kind and good people. There's a different vibe around here, and that should be told, so you all know that there's a difference in traveling our country, where you have some folks that are just a little more in your face, and other ones that are a little more welcoming, and there's just a nice spirit around here. Speaking of spirits, I'm kidding. So, you all know me for the film career, and I'm very proud, I must say, at my age, to look back and think how many of the movies that were so controversial at the time are no longer, controversial, but how it made a stamp and a mark on people and their lives. As I got older, my love, as some may know, was to be a veterinarian. And because the career was so big and strong and I was young, so you're pretty much controlled by a lot of elements that do this, do that, and you reach into yourself and say, yeah, but what about me? Each one of us has a what about me, who we are, what we're doing, what we want, our dreams. And I got very involved with animal welfare in my 20s and in my 30s. I was a vegetarian. I'd read about acid rains, which is basically in farming, you put down certain chemicals, pesticides to keep the crops able to be harvested for us, but at the same time it gets into the dirt, the waterways, and the clouds take this up and disperse it in other places, and it was making people sick and cancer and so on. And how we farm cattle and the pesticide use. And I realized I didn't want to be part of it, and I don't agree with a lot of the farming practices. So I became a vegetarian, and years later, a vegan, while I was writing a book called Going Vegan. It's my life story and why. One day, I was working with, I'd also gotten very involved with Sea Shepherd. His name is Captain Paul Watson. He was the original founder of Greenpeace. Who remembers Greenpeace? Did you ever think where to go? So did I, until I met Captain Paul Watson, who now has Sea Shepherd, and they have a show on TV called Whale Wars. Whale Wars. Has anybody seen that? It's amazing. That's Paul. And these are some of my mentors. They're extremely strong people trying to do the right thing, and you're always at war. And Paul told me that the board literally had bumped him out of Greenpeace, which he founded. So you can't keep a captain down, and he founded Sea Shepherd, and Greenpeace disappeared, because your founder is always the one that is the captain of the ship, so to speak. And so I'm working with these folks, and I was dating a very well-known marine artist, and we were diving around the world. I had a fear. Everybody has a fear. My fear was water. And I grew up in Connecticut, and the Long Island Sound, my brother was Long Island Sound Junior Sailing Champion, and I was brought along in many occasions what they call ballast, which is your extra, at the time, probably 50, 60, not even 70 pounds. I was a little kid. And I had a fear of dark water that was, for me, very valid, as each one of our fears are. And I just couldn't figure it out, because it was so scary. I felt like I was going to have a heart attack. I could not be in the dark water. And I was a good swimmer. I was taught to swim, which is a lot of my upper body. People comment on my upper body and the muscles. And it's from swimming and a lot of different training, because I used to show horses as well, and you have to have upper body strength. And even working with the dogs, you have to have upper body strength. It's a body posture. A lot of people don't realize that we don't let the dog walk us, we walk the dogs. So anyway, I was doing scuba diving because I wanted to face my fear. And once I got underwater and I saw how amazingly beautiful it is. It's our earth, but these are the lower parts and they're surrounded by water. It is incredibly mesmerizing. And once I could get past, just with my regulator, and the fear, and you're turning around realizing you can see everything, depending on the water and the clarity and so on. So there wasn't a shark that was eating me. There was nothing to be afraid of if I knew where I was and I wasn't in shark-infested waters and so on. So I'm doing the oceans, and I'm talking about how we're using the 100-mile nets, and it's catching the dolphins, the porpoise, the sea turtles, the whales, all this cruelty that's going on just to fish for fish. And it's really horrible, and you see a lot of things where man, once again, they can't see it, and they just dump their lawn chairs, and they're this, and they're that, and their junk, and their garbage, and the big cruise lines. I was on a couple cruises that you take, and you can go to islands and things in the Caribbean, and they dump at 12 and 1 o'clock in the morning, they dump all the trash. And it's good luck trying we can't fix so many different laws, and you see it, and you're like, why is this okay? It's not. So, I'm doing what I can to help, and somebody turned around, you start to realize, wait a minute, the dogs and cats, our companion animals, are in trouble. Who can have laws? They're the companion animal. And I would turn, I'm like, well, wait a minute, this isn't controversial. We're not standing up, we're not fighting for save the trees and save the oceans and stop farming like we're doing and stop poisoning people. This is like, it's a given to protect our companion dogs and cats. There's no controversy. And I said, oh God, go back to basics, number one, A level. And that's what I started doing. And I founded the Linda Blair World Heart Foundation so that I had the legitimacy as well as a 501c3. So again, very politically correct, where the large groups have all the money and everybody, all of us have given and given. Why are they not spending it? Why are they not taking our money and doing what we've asked them to do with it? So you have like puppy mills have to stop. That is it enough. And all the backyard breeders and all these different things. There's so many animals, and when you have this many crises and the environmental issues that we're having, the animals are just simply dying in people's yards. They're abandoning them because they have to. The storms come. They don't have to. They just do. And the animals are fending for themselves and they can't survive. Puerto Rico is a big in your face, because so many had asked me to come and help, and I just put it on the agenda, like, okay, we need to get there, talk about spay and neuter, see what we can do. Had good people going in, trying to offer veterinarian services. They're gone, they're wiped out. The animals are gone, plain and simple. And a lot of people think, oh, wind is coming, I'll just tie the dog here. They're drowned, they're gone. I don't understand people. So I just posted something this morning, same thing. I was in Hurricane Katrina. It changed my life forever. It took me years to get over that, and I'm not over it, because I saw the abandonment and what happens, and it's happening right now again in Puerto Rico. So the storm hit this morning, as everyone knows, in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and it comes up, and the winds will come here, and you'll have a wind effect. and some flooding, but you're not gonna have this major catastrophe. But I tell people, if you see an animal, a person in need, an elderly person, they don't have, a lot of times, they don't have food and water for themselves, pets, and their pets. So, always reach out, do the right thing, help another in need, open your eyes. A fellow came up to me yesterday, I think, or the day before, on a bicycle, and he said, might you have something? I'm a war vet, and I'm hungry. And he looked clean cut, and I said, well, where's your facility? Where are you supposed to be? And he didn't really have an answer, and I said, well, where's the homeless shelters? I don't know where I am. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so the person that was with me, from one of the crew members from here, we both talked to him, and we said, you can't just be on the streets. You have to figure this out. You look smart enough. You look like you can go do something to provide food for yourself, not just keep begging. What is the problem? You didn't look like a drug addict. So anyway, we did what we could. I, of course, gave him some money to go get something to eat. Was he honest? I don't know. But he didn't look like a druggie? No, I don't know. Drugs are a big issue in our country. The opioids and there's so many people in so much emotional pain, and they don't know, and they're wanting. Life is not what we grew up thinking and were told it would be, and this is a big shock to all of us. Doesn't matter who you are right now. We are all in a state of shock, and there are many factors to that, from bottom level all the way up. We have our natural disasters, and then we have the threat of war. We have people that are constantly shock and awe. On a daily basis, the news media, I've been listening all morning, and there's no real answers for any of us. So what happened in Las Vegas? I posted, because these people are anybody that you can meet any day. Doesn't matter if you're in a store, on the street, driving, doesn't matter, airports. Country music festival, really? Wow. Now, he had looked at Chicago, one music festival there. He looked at Boston, a baseball, a park. There's no connection there. Went back to Vegas. What he wanted was a huge crowd. What they're finding was he was wealthy and reclusive. I mean, they do not know what happened. We all know mental instability. You can't keep seeing shock and awe constantly. It's the same thing with the war vets. They come back. You are affected. And these people are everywhere. So if you see something that doesn't make sense, either get away from it, point it out, do something, that might prevent something. Gun control, gun control, gun control. Certainly this is something that possibly they'll come to some kind of agreement that will make us a little more safe. I don't know. Bye. Bye. So we'll see, but you have to care. And that's what with Las Vegas, and we all are so heavy-hearted from having to know how many people lost their lives. Innocent people, from regular to law enforcement, and it was just so horrible for so many and their families, and everyone's heart goes out to them. But we just have to keep our eyes open more, and what did come was there was more love and a lot of folks that legitimately reached out to help another in need that they didn't even know. And love is freedom, and freedom is love. And that's all we want as people that are born onto this planet. Yay! And we all have the right to have a prosperous life and a healthy life. So that's where I'm at with my life. Now, as far as my movies, I'm one of the largest dog rescues in America, never intended to be. I thought we could change the laws very quickly and get, things going. I could get back to entertainment. I had planned to be producing and directing projects that I felt people would want from me. Things that I felt were of heart, make a difference, make you think, make you feel, make you laugh. From drama to comedy, just projects that were optioned by all the studios. I literally walked away from that to make a difference in rescue, and Katrina really did believe that in a couple years I would be back to my regular job, and it didn't happen. So I'm working as hard as I can on behalf of America to point out and say, what do we need in unity? Anything, whenever you can unify people, we the people speak for change. And so that's anything from children to elderly to our lives to what's going on in your communities. You do have to show up. I went to a city council meeting the other day, and sometimes you have to reach outside of yourself, your comfortable zone, and you got to get up and speak. And I did, and we passed mandatory spay and neuter, and there's but I could tell, even talking with them, that, it was very animated, and that was one of the pictures that was printed in the paper, and I look like I'm having a ball, when underneath it's really the suffering that I'm feeling for them, that I'm there to fight, but it's how you present and being politically correct and trying to do the best job that you can to present the issues so that there is a chance for the things we care about to pass. So back to things that you may have wanted to ask, I will, that's my foundation, that's my life, in a little quickie. I know you may want to ask questions about the films or life or anything. I will open the floor and let you ask away. This is your time.
Rock on. If anybody has any questions, please raise your hand. I would like to touch on Las Vegas. I actually live in Las Vegas.
Oh, you do?
Yes, ma'am. Immediately that Monday morning, my phone started ringing at 12:30 from friends from all over the country calling me. I ignored it. I was like, why is everybody calling me? It's at school, man. I gotta get my kids up in the morning. And then my dad called at 3:30 in the morning. That's when, when your parents call, you have to answer the phone. It doesn't matter what time it is. And he called me. He's like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, I'm just sleeping. He goes, you haven't heard? I was like, haven't heard what? He was like, there was a horrible shooting in Mandalay Bay. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh. I had friends that were at that concert. So I immediately called my friends. They're like, we're okay, we're safe, we're locked down right now, we can't get out. But that next morning, I went down, donated blood, went and dropped off over 60 cases of water. And then I went to the Thomas and Mack Center, and that was a site I'd never seen. So the Thomas and Mack Center is our studio. And, okay, sorry. If you'd like to ask, please ask me later on. So, does anybody have any questions?
And thank you for doing it. See, you stepped up, and that's exactly what people just, be a participant, and God bless you for doing it.
Yeah, I was going to say that by the next day we got turned away because there were so many volunteers.
Yeah.
It was so wonderful seeing America come together like that.
When you went with Rick James, what did you learn from him and stuff?
That everybody was a big fan, and
Yeah.
that he was one of our best musical talents and gifts. I don't see as many people that are, he was a musical genius. They're out there, and we do see them in experience. I was watching Ed Sheeran last night. That's a musical genius. And there's several that are out there.
Yeah.
Everybody knows about my first boyfriend, Rick Springfield.
Yeah.
And he's such a good guy, and he's out there, and the fans love him, and then the fans help participate. We're like a big family, and they help share with, for his birthday, with the birthday fundraisers to help the animals, because that's what he and I always loved, and so it's all family. What else? Do we have another question? Film or anything?
Any question over there? Flash.
First, I'd like to thank you for being here.
Oh, my goodness, thank you for having me.
I've always been a big fan. I was terrorized at a very young age. I believe you know that. And actually, that was probably, in my opinion, the scariest part of the movie. The Exorcist, of course, was your laugh. I would like to know what your scariest part of the film, or just give us some insight on, did anything really bother you, or I'm sure you've seen it, what was the scariest part?
You know, we made a documentary a few years back, and it's on the Blu-ray, and I think you can find it on YouTube now. It's the making of The Exorcist, and each one of us talked about the filming, the makeup tests, the lighting, the acting, our experiences, and they showed so many amazing behind-the-scenes footage that I had forgotten about, so I didn't really remember them shooting it way back then. And it was really remarkable because it really stands up for what we explained. It's a really technical movie, and it takes a really long time to shoot just one scene. And all of the, so from the acting, you know, to all of the rehearsals that we did. Owen Roisman, the director of photography, is a genius. So years later, I was able to talk to him about the different lenses that he used, because he could be here and we're shooting something almost, you know, at the end of the room, but the lens that he had, so it brings that. It was a particular scene with Ellen Burstyn and Jason Miller on the bridge, and you just feel like you're just like eavesdropping onto their conversation, where she's like, you know, Father, I think my little girl, you know, da, 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 and he's like, no, 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 and he whisks her off the bridge. There was just so many factors that people didn't realize were part of the overall, and the sound, and all the manipulation of sound. If Billy Friedkin could have had all the seats shaking and the room at 30 degrees, that was, you know, that was what he really wanted, so that you would have the experience. He was the one that was the chosen to create the film from Bill Blatty's amazing, you know, novel that would shake up the world. And he did just that, and everybody applauds him to this day. I mean, it's very rare. You know, we all still love Gone with the Wind and some of the masterpieces. And from what people tell me, their love for the movie, their fear, their instant recall. They say you can, whether you get married, whether, you know, your firstborn, your first kiss, whatever it may be, your first car, but The Exorcist is, you know, right up there with it. So that's something sacred that I hold. You know, I'm part of everybody's life in some capacity. It was not anything that was frightening to make. It was very, very long in nature, from the makeup, creating the makeup, putting it on, the testing, the rehearsals. So it's almost mechanical by the time you come to it. All the lighting that's done in my eyes with the contacts to get a reflection. See, nowadays you can add all this technology because the CGI, we didn't have that. So it's like, it's a real magic show. And of course, that's why we all love magic, because we can't figure out how to do it. And it was very physical. It was hard, and it's for a young person, it's a testimony to endurance. You know, you just kind of put it here in a compartment, do your job, because that's what I was taught. And then I got to see my animals, got to go back to my public school with my friends. You know, I'm a nature kid, I still am, and that I think keeps you very, very grounded. I didn't grow up in Hollywood, so it was like, you know, we're making a movie, whatever, and you go home. It was like, but for me, it was like, what are they doing? Because kids don't understand religion, you know. So I hope that helps. But go look at the documentary. It's good.
Thank you.
Well, that's awesome. I do apologize. That's the time we got. If you'd like to ask us more questions, please stop by our table. Take some pictures,
Yes.
get some autographs, ask her some
Yes.
questions. How long are you going to be here today? I know it's Sunday, so.
We're here as long as the weather
There you go.
Holds up. So, listen, you all stay safe. I hope I gave you something to go on because I know that we're all in a very strange, difficult time. You are not alone. Kindness does help, and act where you may feel like, should I or shouldn't I? Do it. Help another in need. Okay?
Ladies and gentlemen,
God bless.
Linda Blair. If you'd like to hang out, we're gonna have Danny Tamborelli coming in next for this Q&A. Please hang out.